Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that you have exactly $10,000 sitting in your bank account. Not 1,000, not 5,000, $10,000. For some people, that amount doesn't sound life-changing. But for millions of people, it would completely change how they sleep at night. Because most people are not struggling due to a lack of income. They're struggling because they have no financial buffer. One unexpected bill, one medical emergency, one car repair, one missed paycheck, and suddenly everything starts falling apart. This is the reality for millions of households. They work hard, they earn money, yet somehow they always feel broke. Not because they're lazy, not because they're irresponsible, but because modern life is expensive. Every paycheck already has a destination before it arrives. Rent, food, insurance, gas, subscriptions, debt payments, taxes, and whatever remains disappears just as quickly. This creates a dangerous cycle. People spend years running on a financial treadmill, working harder, earning more, yet never actually moving forward. The problem isn't that they have no money. The problem is that they have no margin for error. And that's where the first $10,000 changes everything. But before we talk about what happens after reaching that number, we need to understand why most people never get there. Think about the average person. Every month they promise themselves the same thing. Next month, I'll save more. Then life happens, a birthday, a vacation, a broken appliance, an unexpected expense, and the savings account goes back to zero, again and again and again. Over time, something even worse happens. People stop believing that saving is possible. They start thinking wealth is only for other people. People born rich, people with six-figure salaries, people who got lucky. But that's not true. Almost every wealthy person started with the exact same first step: building their first financial cushion. Because before investments, before real estate, before passive income, before financial freedom, there is usually one important milestone, the first $10,000. And what makes this number special isn't the money itself, it's what the money represents: discipline, patience, consistency, proof that you can spend less than you earn, proof that your future matters more than temporary pleasure, proof that you're no longer living paycheck to paycheck. The journey to the first $10,000 is often the hardest financial challenge a person will ever face, not because the amount is huge, but because it requires changing habits that may have existed for years. This is why the first $10,000 feels almost impossible. But once you understand what happens after reaching it, you'll realize why so many financially successful people consider it the most important milestone of all. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. The strange thing about $10,000 is that the money itself is not what changes your life. What changes your life is what that money gives you, because for the first time, you have options. Most people live with no financial margin. Every unexpected expense becomes a crisis: a broken car, a medical bill, a lost job, a damaged phone. Everything feels like an emergency. And when everything feels like an emergency, people make bad decisions. They panic, they borrow money, they use credit cards, they take expensive loans. And the cycle continues, but something different happens once you reach your first $10,000. The constant fear starts disappearing, not completely, but enough to change how you think. For the first time, you stop reacting to problems and start planning for the future. That's a massive psychological shift. Because poverty is not only a money problem, it's an attention problem. When people are constantly worried about survival, they cannot focus on opportunities. They're too busy dealing with emergencies, but a financial cushion changes that. Imagine two people both lose their jobs tomorrow. The first person has $500. The second person has $10,000. Who sleeps better that night? Who makes smarter decisions? Who has more negotiating power? The answer is obvious. Because money creates options, and options create freedom. That's why wealthy people value liquidity so much. They understand that cash is not only money, cash is flexibility, cash is time, cash is opportunity. Without savings, people are forced to accept whatever life gives them: bad jobs, bad loans, bad situations, because they have no choice. But with savings, choice returns. And that's when something incredible happens. People stop thinking month to month and start thinking year to year. They stop asking, how do I survive this week? And start asking, how do I improve my future? That shift changes everything. Because wealth is built by long-term thinking, not short-term survival. This is why the first $10,000 is often more important than the next $100,000. The first $10,000 buys breathing room, it buys confidence, it buys patience, and patience is one of the most valuable financial assets in the world. Because people with patience can invest, people with patience can wait, people with patience can avoid bad decisions. Meanwhile, people living paycheck to paycheck rarely have that luxury. They're forced to think about today, not next year, not 5 years from now, today. And that's exactly why the first $10,000 matters so much. It's not just a number. It's the point where fear starts losing control over your life. And once that happens, everything begins to change. Most people think saving $10,000 is the goal. It's not. In reality, $10,000 is only the starting line. Because money has a strange property. When you spend it, it disappears. But when you invest it wisely, it begins working for you. This is where the game changes. Up until now, every dollar you've earned probably came from your own effort. Your time, your energy, your labor. You work, you get paid, and the cycle repeats. But eventually, something powerful happens. Your money starts doing some of the work for you. At first, the change is almost invisible. A few dollars here, a few dollars there. Nothing exciting, nothing life-changing. In fact, this is why many people quit too early. They expect immediate results. They expect their investments to double overnight, but that's not how wealth is built. Wealth is built slowly, then suddenly. Imagine planting a tree. The first year, almost nothing happens. The second year, not much changes. The third year, growth still seems slow. But beneath the surface, the roots are expanding, getting stronger, growing deeper, preparing for massive growth later. Money works the same way. The first $10,000 is difficult because you're building the roots. You're building habits, discipline, patience, financial awareness. And once those roots exist, growth becomes easier. This is why the first $100,000 is often considered harder than the second $100,000, not because of math, but because of behavior. The person who reaches $100,000 is no longer the same person who started with zero. They think differently. They spend differently. They plan differently. Most importantly, they understand the power of compounding. Compounding is one of the most powerful forces in finance. It allows small amounts of money to grow into large amounts over time, not because of magic, but because growth begins creating more growth. Money starts earning money, and then that money earns even more money year after year, decade after decade. This is why wealthy people are obsessed with time. Not because they know something others don't, but because they understand that time multiplies money. A person who starts investing early often beats someone who invests more money later, simply because they gave compounding more time to work. The truth is simple. The first $10,000 creates security. The next $90,000 creates momentum. And momentum changes everything. Because once money begins growing on its own, you are no longer relying entirely on your paycheck. You begin building a system, a machine, an asset that continues working even while you sleep. And that's when financial freedom stops being a dream and starts becoming a possibility. If saving $10,000 is so important, why do so few people ever reach it? The answer is uncomfortable. Because most people are fighting a battle they don't even know they're in. Every day, thousands of companies compete for one thing: your attention, and eventually, your money. Think about the average person. They wake up, check social media, see people driving expensive cars, wearing luxury watches, living in beautiful homes, taking exotic vacations, and without realizing it, a dangerous idea enters their mind. I should have that too. This is where the problem begins, because modern society doesn't reward patience. It rewards consumption. You're constantly encouraged to spend, buy now, upgrade now, finance now, enjoy now. Very few people are told to wait, to save, to invest, to think long term. As a result, many people become trapped in a cycle of lifestyle inflation. The moment they earn more money, they spend more money. A raise arrives. A bigger apartment follows. A newer car follows. More subscriptions appear. More expenses appear. And somehow, despite earning more than ever before, nothing changes. The paycheck grows. But the savings account stays the same, or worse. It disappears completely. This is why income alone rarely creates wealth, because wealth is not determined by how much you earn. It's determined by how much you keep. A person earning $50,000 can become wealthy. A person earning $200,000 can remain broke. The difference is behavior, not income. And nowhere is this more obvious than with debt. Debt is one of the biggest obstacles standing between people and their first $10,000. Because debt steals future income. Every monthly payment is money that cannot be saved, cannot be invested, cannot build freedom, and yet millions of people continue adding more debt every year, not because they're irresponsible, but because the system makes borrowing incredibly easy. One click, one signature, one approval, and suddenly, future income has already been spent. The most dangerous part? Many people mistake spending for progress. They believe looking wealthy is the same as becoming wealthy. But these are completely different things. One creates status, the other creates freedom. And freedom is what truly matters. Because nobody cares what car you drive when you're financially stressed. Nobody cares what watch you wear when you're trapped by debt. What matters is control. Control over your time. Control over your choices. Control over your future. And until people understand that difference, many will continue chasing appearances instead of wealth. Which is exactly why most people never reach their first $10,000. At this point, you might be wondering something. If wealth is not about income, then what separates people who build wealth from those who don't? The answer is mindset, not in the motivational sense, not positive thinking, not repeating affirmations in front of a mirror. Real wealth begins with a shift in perspective. Most people see money as something to spend. Wealthy people see money as something to deploy. That single difference changes everything. Imagine receiving an extra $1,000 tomorrow. Most people immediately think about what they can buy. A new phone, new clothes, a weekend trip, something that feels good today. But someone focused on building wealth asks a different question. How can this money improve my future? It's a subtle difference. But over time, it creates dramatically different outcomes because every dollar has two possible jobs. It can create temporary pleasure or permanent value. And wealthy people become obsessed with value. They understand that every financial decision has a hidden cost. Economists call this opportunity cost. If you spend $1,000 today, that money can no longer be invested. It can no longer grow. It can no longer work for you. The purchase might feel exciting for a week, but the lost opportunity can last for decades. This is one reason wealthy people often appear surprisingly boring. They don't always drive the newest cars. They don't always wear expensive brands. They don't always look rich because their focus is different. They care less about impressing strangers and more about increasing freedom. This is a mindset shift that most people never make. They believe wealth creates freedom, but in reality, freedom is created by the decisions that build wealth long before the money arrives. Another difference is time horizon. Most people think in days. Some think in weeks. A few think in years. But wealthy people often think in decades. They understand that small decisions repeated consistently become life-changing. Saving $10 today seems insignificant. Saving $10 every day for years becomes powerful. Reading 10 pages today seems insignificant. Reading 10 pages every day changes your knowledge forever. Small actions, repeated consistently, create extraordinary outcomes. This is why building wealth is rarely about one big decision. It's about hundreds of small decisions, made correctly, again and again, day after day, year after year. Eventually, those decisions become habits, and those habits become a lifestyle, and that lifestyle becomes wealth. The truth is simple. Before your bank account changes, your thinking must change. Because wealth is not something you accidentally discover, it's something you intentionally build. One decision at a time. Final chapter: the real meaning of $10,000. At the beginning of this video, $10,000 probably sounded like a financial goal, just a number, a milestone, a target in a savings account. But now you can see that it means much more because the first $10,000 isn't really about money. It's about transformation. It's the moment you prove to yourself that you're different from the average person. While most people spend everything they earn, you learned how to keep a portion of it. While most people chase instant gratification, you learned patience. While most people rely on motivation, you built systems. And that's exactly why the first $10,000 changes everything. Not because it makes you rich, it doesn't. Not because it solves all your financial problems, it won't, but because it proves something powerful. It proves that you can delay gratification. It proves that you can control your spending. It proves that you can think long term. And those skills are worth far more than $10,000. Because money can be lost, money can be spent, money can disappear, but the habits that created it remain. The discipline remains. The knowledge remains. The mindset remains. And once you possess those things, building wealth becomes a completely different game. Most people spend years searching for a secret, a shortcut, a hidden strategy that instantly changes their life. But the truth is much simpler. The secret is consistency. The secret is patience. The secret is continuing when progress feels slow. Because wealth is rarely built in dramatic moments. It's built quietly. One smart decision at a time. One saved dollar at a time. One investment at a time. Day after day. Month after month. Year after year. Until eventually, the results become impossible to ignore. So if you're still waiting for the perfect moment to start, this is it. Not tomorrow, not next month. Not when you earn more money. Today. Because every wealthy person started with their first dollar. Every investor started with their first investment. And every person who reached financial freedom once stood exactly where you are now. The only difference is that they started. Your first $10,000 isn't the finish line. It's the beginning. The beginning of financial confidence. The beginning of financial freedom. The beginning of a completely different future. And the sooner that future becomes reality.